Hi, and welcome back to Just Ask the Question. I'm your host, Brian Karen. With me today, a former Nerd Avenger of the Mary Trump Nerd Avengers and Republican strategist. That's right, folks, Republican strategist, Kurt Bardella. Kurt, it's good to see you again, brother. It's been a while.
It's been a minute, but I still wear my Nerd Avenger, badge proudly. Even if we don't assemble as much as we used to.
That's right. We don't assemble as much as we, but I still have the secret handshake down. So,
Exactly.
so you've got a new project out that I think is important to take notice of. It's called the Watchdog Project. You want to tell me a little bit about what you hope to do with it?
Yeah, it's funny because as Substack started becoming, I think, a very important congregating place for those of us who are mortified by everything we're seeing with Donald Trump as
You mean
the
like like maybe projecting that the former president of the United States was an ape, that kind of thing?
things I couldn't have even fathomed, honestly, as well as being casual about using law enforcement to murder U.S. citizens in cold blood.
Yeah, well,
That
oh,
that
come on,
that bit
that's
too.
gotta say that
Uh,
happened last
yeah,
week.
that's still
What
7 days
fresh
ago. I
deviltry?
know.
What fresh deviltry is he up to today?
But
So go ahead.
I've watched our fellow nerd Avengers like you and Mary Trump and Waj do incredible things on platforms like Substack on moving the conversation away from the billionaire controlled platforms like X and take it somewhere that's I think better, safer, more democratized. And I struggled with
That
where do I
wouldn't
fit
be the
into that
Washington
equation?
Post, though, right? That
What's that?
yeah, right.
Is that around anymore? I don't think it is.
I think they pretty much closed it. Go
Closed
ahead.
for business.
Yeah.
But I struggled with where do I fit in that conversation because I didn't want to just be a generalist. I didn't want to just be someone who didn't have anything really new to offer the conversation. And so I kind of took a step back. I took a step back from like everything. I stopped really being on social media, stopped posting things. I kind of just did the bare minimum as I was trying to regroup. And then a couple weeks ago, we saw this fight break out between the House Oversight Committee, where I used to work back in the day from 2009 2013, between the Oversight Committee and the Clintons about complying with a subpoena to get them to testify about the Epstein files.
Right.
And as I watched that fight go back and forth, and I saw the Republicans push to hold the Clintons in contempt, the Clintons make counteroffers. It's going to culminate at the end of the month with them doing a closed door deposition on camera. It occurred to me that they have unwittingly, and Donald Trump gets this, I believe, opened the door now to the gloves are off. Nobody's off limits. No former president, no former first lady, no former secretary of state. If Congress subpoenas you, you got to show. Donald Trump knows that that's going to boomerang on him, and likely in the near future. But I
If
started
they
thinking
try.
about that. I started thinking about that in terms of, well, if we take back the majority, which I think we will, assuming we have an election, which I'm not sure we will. Um,
I think we'll have an election. I think he's going to try to do his damnedest to make sure that the election doesn't matter.
yes, I agree with you there too. But pretending for a minute, we live in the fantasy world where everything happens the way it should. Uh, a year from now, more or less, is when this new Democrat majority would take power. And I thought to myself, my God, a year from now, I'm not going to even remember that this fight happened per se, because there's going to be so much other shit that happens between now and then. How do we keep track of it? And so I started thinking, wouldn't it be great if there was a place, in this arena that captured in real time what the oversight targets need to be, what the congressional investigations need to be, so that we don't forget to hold them accountable. Because I'm telling you, these guys are operating from a playbook that if they just do so much corruption, so much waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, you won't be able to keep track of it. So everybody will ultimately get away with it. And that's where the
Flood the zone.
conceptual. That's where the exactly. That's where the Watchdog Report idea was born, and it was born out of my experience working at the Oversight Committee, knowing how congressional investigations work, knowing what the real power and what the levers are that you can pull if you're in the majority, and wanting to create that blueprint so that when we take back power, we know what to do with it. I think one of my biggest frustrations has been watching at times Democrats take power, like in 2018, and then not knowing what to do to hold Donald Trump accountable, to hold everyone accountable. Because I'll tell you what, if Democrats had done their job in 2018, Trump doesn't get to come back in 2020 at all.
No shit.
which is what the Nerd Adventures talked about a lot back
Yeah,
in the day.
no shit. But you talk about something that I am keen on. Is they're flooding the zone? Is there someone somewhere keeping just marking down? Okay, on this day they did this. On this day they did this. Here's this executive. I mean, I'm sure they will appoint many people afterwards to look at it, go back and look at it. But right now, there needs to be, because in real time, as you said, it's happening so fast, and there's
Right.
so much going on. I think their goal is, as you said, not only to flood the zone, but know that they can get away with it by flooding the
Yes,
zone.
that's right.
And what frustrates me, you have a little bit more hope, I guess, than I do at this point that the Democrats will take over, because I have often said that we have two parties in this country. One has no heart and one has no head. And the no head party is the Democratic Party. If there's anybody that could snatch defeat out of the jaws of
Jaws of
victory
Victory.
quicker,
Yeah.
it's the Democrats. So just to get to that point where they get back in power, what do they need to do between now and November for that to happen?
Well, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why I am slightly more encouraged than you, my jaded friend, are is I look at the 29 Republicans who have announced their retirement from the House. They're not even running again. In my experience, you don't walk away from power voluntarily. You walk away when you see the writing on the wall. And the people who know truly what the real political environment is are these members of Congress. And when they're like, you know what, I'm taking my ball and going home, they know it's a lost cause. And I think that what we're going to have to do to achieve that is we're going to have a margin of victory that's too big to tamper with. There are certain things that can happen. The instruments of government, it can be utilized and deployed to try to suppress turnout, to try to intimidate our side. What we need is a
Like
turnout
ICE
so
agents
robust,
surrounding the polls, that type of
like
stuff.
unnamed ICE agents with Uzis and and no warrants. Yeah, not that that would happen in America in 2025, 26, but we're going to need a turnout so robust that it is, like I said, too big to tamper with. And I think that we can get there. And I think that everything that Republicans are doing right now, I mean, they're like reaching for the self destruct button every time I turn the TV on. They're doing everything to repel the very voters that they need so desperately to actually maintain their majority. And I think that most Republicans understand, because when they go back home to their district, when they're not in DC and not in the media bubble of whether it's Fox News or Inside Baseball publications like Politico or Axios, when they're back home, they're getting their asses handed to them. Like it is really toxic. And you look at what happened just the other day, in an election here in Texas, where I am right now. I'm in Dallas right now. That's a 30-point swing. Of a district carried by a Republican that went to a Democrat, like that level of volatility in the pendulum, and it tells me that, wow, there's going to be people who are going to run in districts we're not even thinking about right now who aren't going to win. They're not going to come back, man. And that's going to be the level of wave, if you will, that I think we're going to experience is going to be enough to carry us into the majority. And that's why these members
Okay.
are retiring.
So yeah, I believe that is why they're retiring. But again, I've never seen anybody self-destruct quite like the Democrats. So I go to the issue that I think concerns me about the Democrats. I've seen, and some of these are my friends, and some of them, I've long known acquaintances who are saying, "Hey, this is our chance. Get rid of the middle. If you're not taking a side, you've got to take a side against Republicans, only progressives, only the far left of the party." Man, I got to tell you, I'm not real to defeat Donald Trump as a Democrat. I honestly think all you need to do is stand up and go, I state your name, state the office that you're running for, promise to to defend the Constitution of the United States and not
Yeah.
shoot citizens indiscriminately. Please, may I have your
Yes.
money and your vote? That's all they really need. But
Yes.
some of the stuff that I hear is trying to push for a very progressive far left agenda, which is going to turn people off. I mean, isn't
Yep.
that what the Democrat Party faces right now?
Yeah, and what the Democratic Party needs to do is embrace being the big tent party in
Yes.
American politics. We need to be the party that we are big enough to hold a Mandami in New York, and a recovering Republican like David Jolly in Florida, a red dirt Democrat like James Tallarico or Jasmine Crockett for that matter, as well as Republicans who have had enough of this. It's my wife came up with the phrase, and I totally agree with this. We need people who are willing to be a Democrat for a day, just one day. We're not asking you to get married. We're not asking you to change everything you've believed in your entire life. We're not asking you, to be somebody you're not. What we're asking for you to do is for one day, even just one time, vote for the Democrat. And then you can take your party back. If you don't like the direction of the Republican Party, and I know there are a lot of people who don't, who are not comfortable with what they're seeing right now, this
Right.
is the way that you can do that. And so we need to be a party that allows that permission structure to be in place. And you are absolutely right, by the way. We cannot alienate and run those people away by spending all of our time and oxygen talking about things that are so far outside the mainstream window of tolerance that we look like we're batshit crazy too.
Well, Hal Sparks, I talked to him the other day, and we did a piece, and he said what the Democrats need to do is concentrate on turning red districts purple, purple districts blue, and you don't need to turn blue districts bluer. You don't need to do that. You don't need an AOC in West Virginia, and yet that's the other argument I've heard is we need to find the AOC in West Virginia and run her. AOC couldn't win in West Virginia. So if you have a candidate like that, it seems to me rather ridiculous to try and put that candidate on the ballot in West
Yes.
Virginia. And,
Yeah,
and
you
I'm
got to meet
reminded,
people where they are. You can't
yeah,
you can't turn West Virginia into New York. It's never going to happen, and you'll lose when you should win. And you got to recruit candidates who have an honest to God chance of actually winning, because again, the needs of people in New York City very different than the needs of people in a suburban Iowa or here in North Dallas or up the road in Plano and Frisco and further out. Like, people in Bakersfield have it differently than people in San Diego. I mean, it's like it is a very different country depending on where you live, and we can't do one size fits all progressive litmus tests. Like, that's a recipe to lose.
yeah. I was going back to Tip O'Neill. His memoir was called Man of the House.
Yep.
When he went out to raise funds and find candidates, he went out and to the districts and said, "Okay, who's the most popular guy in town? Who's the guy that everybody?" And he would walk up to him, Democrat or Republican, and say, "Look, you run for the office. You back certain things that we back. You can back whatever you want in your, but we'll help you get elected if you have any.
Mm.
But do that." Where is that flexibility in the Democratic Party today? I think they've been. I think the Democratic Party has horrible leadership, but maybe that's just me.
I mean, I think there's a lot of frustration. Like, there are times where I look at people like Chuck Schumer. I'm like, you're not the guy. You're from a different era. I'll say that as respectfully as I can in that regard. Um,
Well, I'll say it. He's an old son of a bitch and needs to retire. He's the guy who comes out of his house and goes, "You kids get off my lawn."
Nylon, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then if they don't, he's going to write them a stern letter. I mean, we're
yeah.
past the stern letter. How about we elect the guy and yeah, so I'm with you there. And look, that's not dismissing all that Chuck Schumer has done in his life. But
No, of course
but
not. It's just you got to know when it's time to walk off the stage, because if you don't, we see what happens when someone stays too long. We see it all the time in all different arenas, whether it's sports, whether it's in our own lives, whether it's in politics. Uh, you know, and it's sad when you look at certain figures who stay too long, and your last image of them is of Joe Biden shuffling onto that debate stage, or Dianne Feinstein not all there in a wheelchair, literally rolling through the Senate.
uh,
They deserve better. They deserve better than that being their lasting image. But they did themselves, and the people around them did a huge disservice to those people's legacies by not telling them the truth, which was, it's time to go. It's time to take a step back.
so what do you want to do what are you doing now in the Watchdog report, and what do you want to do before? Because I'm going to again, I can only say this bluntly. As bad as the Republicans are, how
Hmm.
bad are the Democrats that they cannot defeat Donald
Yeah,
Trump as bad as
yeah.
they are? are.
I agree.
So
I agree with that. Well, I mean, part of it is, I publish on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on Monday, I publish something called the agenda, which is literally this is what Congress can do right now, what Democrats in Congress can do at this very second, even in the minority, to start trying to get some threshold of oversight, accountability, check and balance in place. On
okay,
Wednesdays, I publish the report, which is this is what they've actually done this week. Here's where we're at, things we talked about, things we didn't talk about, but like here's literally what Senate Judiciary, House Oversight Dems, here's what they're actually doing. And then on Friday, I published something called The List. The list is literally an enumerated list of these are the Trump administration officials that need to be subpoena one, subpoena two, subpoena three if we take back the majority. So we don't forget. Ed Martin's a good example of this. Ed Martin, Donald Trump's pardon attorney, was the chair of the DOJ weaponization committee. Basically, he's going after Trump's political enemies and charging them with bogus crimes. He might not be in the administration a year from now. We shouldn't forget what he's been doing. We shouldn't forget how these shady pardon deals, these pay for play deals came to be. They need to be exposed. He needs to be held accountable. The way that we did it when I was at Oversight for Republicans, we understood you can't necessarily go after the president of the United States on day one and win. You got to get some wins along the way. You got to get some singles and doubles to get that momentum, get that credibility with the media, with the American people, even with your colleagues. There's a lot of low hanging fruit out there. We got Kash Patel spending taxpayer dollars getting security details for his girlfriend. We got Trisha
Tom
McLaughlin.
Homan.
Yeah, don't even get me started on $50,000 Tom Homan. We got Trisha McLaughlin, who's out there every day pimping DHS and ICE. Well, somehow her better half got a no bid contract deal worth tens of millions of dollars for some private plane thing, like low hanging fruit. Go for those right away. But I'll tell
So
you, if we don't enumerate it right now and make that list, a year from now we're not going to remember about those things.
so give me your top five on that list.
Okay. Ed Martin, has I've already said, because I think the abusive pardons that we've seen from Donald Trump is one of the most transactional and most flagrant examples of corruption that we have seen. We need to be looking at Ed Martin. We need to be looking at Kash Patel. Like I said, not even just because of what the FBI is or isn't doing, but just the fact that you're using taxpayer dollars to get security for your girlfriend in Nashville, Tennessee. That is some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Nobody can defend that, right? Again, Trisha McLaughlin. I think that getting a no bid contract is a big deal in the federal government. That there's a way that's supposed to work. Biggest mantra I always have when I worked in oversight was follow the money. So let's do that. Number four, we need to look at how and why hundreds of $1 billions of Venezuelan oil money is going through the Middle East and Qatar and not through the US banking system.
Oh,
That
is
doesn't add up to me.
going through the Bitcoin. It's going through crypto that is directly related to it's based on the US dollar, so it's nothing more than a money laundering scheme. That's all it is.
Yes.
So yes,
Yes.
I agree with that. And
Yeah.
that's a Donald. What about Steve Miller?
Well, and again, there's something really interesting, and it's attacking it not from the most obvious, flagrant, blatant stories, because there's a lot of them. It's why is he living on a military base? Why is he living on the same capital as a Joint Chiefs of Staff? That's an interesting use of government military resources. Let's dive into that.
Yeah, I like that one. And then I want to look at the investigation they have into Nike and going after
Mm,
Phil Knight. He's
Phil
just
Knight.
yeah. All he is the reason why they're going after him is because he's a Democratic. He's been I mean, God, since the Clinton era, a donor to the
Mhm.
Democratic Party and doesn't like Donald Trump, and that's why they've decided to investigate Nike.
It's like every investigation that we've seen the Trump White House launch, whether it's against Nike, whether it's against Adam Schiff or Eric Swalwell, or like we need to uncover the origins of those investigations, because I guarantee you it wasn't legitimate. We need to look at every single federal prosecutor, U.S. attorney, FBI agent who has resigned in protest because they aren't comfortable doing what Maine DOJ is telling them to do. We need to get them into a transcript interview, a deposition, find out what do you know, who gave you the order, and why you felt uncomfortable complying with it. These people who are walking away from career jobs, like they're heroes to me. It's easy to sit out here and talk about stuff, what you should or shouldn't do when I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not a federal government employee. It's another thing when someone walks away from that job security, from their healthcare benefits, their pension plan, their retirement, their security. We got to talk to these people. And again, I go back to a year from now, we're not going to remember the 9 agents who walked away from the Minnesota office. We're not going to remember to do that. That's why we have to make these lists right now.
So your list on your Monday show, what can the Democrats do right now?
Well, and this is why what I just said is what they can do right now. These people who are walking out on the job because they don't like what Donald Trump is asking them to do, you can invite them right now to do a closed door deposition with them, just so we have the record of it. We don't have to do anything with it right now, but we can aggregate all the information of who's giving the orders, who at the White House is intervening and interfering, so that when the time comes and we have the reins of power, we don't have to spend the first 6 months doing all the groundwork. We did it already. We are ready to go. We are ready to issue subpoena 1, subpoena 2, hearing 1, hearing 2, and ask those questions in broad daylight.
So right now, all right. So if you were going to put together a list of activities for next week, what would you say?
I would be looking at 1, everyone associated with the Epstein files would be getting a blanket subpoena across the board. Because again, if we can threaten to hold Bill and Hillary in contempt of Congress and make them do a closed door deposition on February 27th, 28th, then everyone is no one is off limits. So I'd
Well,
be issuing
but
blanket
Donald Trump,
subpoenas.
the Supreme Court has ruled that presidents have pretty much unlimited immunity for doing what they've done in office.
Sure,
So
let's make him exercise that immunity. Let's make him say, I am going to not talk about I'm so scared of talking about the Epstein files. I'm going to exercise the immunity of the Supreme Court. Good. Make that case. Good luck. I think the American people are going to be with us on that one. Not
yeah,
afraid of that.
no, okay. So number 2, when you report on your Wednesday, what are you going to say that they've done so far this week? Have they done anything this so far this week?
One of the things, again, some of the stuff goes under the radar, but I think it is important. There's going to be a hearing a week from now, actually, with Attorney General Pam Bondi, where it's a public hearing, it's oversight over Justice Department. And I think that's going to be, it's the first time since last year she's testified before Congress. And there are a lot of questions about ICE, about election integrity, what they would call, but how they're going to use it, about why they were using the Justice Department and law enforcement to raid Georgia's elections, and what they're going to do with that.
Standing nearby watching.
On the phone.
Yeah.
Iconic photo.
Yes.
So I think that is that will be one of the most important on the record question and answers we are going to have. It's probably the only opportunity we're going to have this year to get her under oath.
Pam, you mean?
Yeah.
Bondage?
Yeah.
Bondi? Pam Bondage. I can't think of her any other way. So at the same time, all right, you're looking at what they're doing, what they should do, what they're doing, and a list of things that need to be, and a list of activities and people who need to be kept. Is there anyone doing this right now besides you? Is there anyone that you know of? Have you talked to people in government who are interested in this?
Yeah, I've in the run up to this, I've had the opportunity to meet with a lot of different groups and entities, from the DNC to the House Oversight Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, watchdog groups that exist, and that's why, again, much to my surprise, something like this didn't exist. There are people keeping track of what they're individually doing, and that's great and fine. But there is no central nervous system of oversight investigations that puts this all in one place and creates that body of record that you can look back on and use as almost a GPS for oversight. And much to my surprise, it doesn't exist. And if it did, I'd be the very first person promoting whatever it is. I'd be like, go check this out, go read this. Like, it's not that I want to be doing it. I could think of 90,000 other things I could do with my time. It's just, it doesn't exist. It needs to exist, or we're going to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. We can't let them get away with it. Because I'll tell you, next time, if there is a next time, we're not going to be able to get them out.
Right. Well, that's what you had said a little bit about your concern for the fall elections, for the midterms. I have those concerns. Like I said, they have talked about, Bannon was talking about surrounding polls with ICE.
Yeah. Yep.
Already, what I find, and this is just me finding loathsome what some of the things they've done. But when you have the president of the United States going, 80% of the people in the U.S. want us to get violent immigrants, violent criminals, and deport them. Well, no shit. But we don't want you to kill. We don't want you to kill American citizens in the process. Previous administration, and then they go, you don't give them grief, and there were previous administrations who deported more than we did. Well, yeah, because they follow the law.
Right. Right.
Due process. So in that regard, what you're talking about to me, Kurt, sounds like it's going to need a staff, and it's going to need a vigilance that one person can't do. I love the effort. How are you asking people to help?
Well, the biggest thing people could do is subscribe on Substack, sign up for it to just get it. There's strength in numbers, and as you know this better than anybody, if you're able to demonstrate you can build an audience and that there is interest in this, people will start paying attention. The people on Capitol Hill will start reading it. The members of Congress will start using it as that blueprint. That's when something's working really well. And so again, I'm the watchdogreport.substack.com. And the only thing I'm focused on right now is keep doing the body of work, hoping people will see it as a resource and as a means to really understand the full totality of the corruption going on and who's actually responsible for it.
Well, we know who's actually responsible for it. There's one guy, but there's plenty of minor minions that have added their voice to the crap file. But here's have you talked with members of Congress? Are they receptive to this?
Yes, I've had the opportunity to get that feedback, and again, if this already existed, I would have been waved off of it by these people. The Democrats that I personally know that sit on the Oversight Committee, that sit on the Judiciary Committee, all the feedback has been, this is fantastic. This is going to be a great resource. We need that. And
a massive undertaking. It's a massive undertaking because there's a massive amount of corruption.
Yes.
I put together a documentary on the first year of this president. I know what faces you at the end. We had outlined some of the highlights, and then I said, okay, now we had a scroll at the end of all the different individual events of corruption that I documented in just the first 100 days of the Donald Trump administration. I go, the crawl's like, I had to cut it down. It could have been 15 minutes of just of crap. So I had to go to the highlights. So it's a length of one song. It's like 2 or 3 minute crawl, but everything that they do on a daily basis, as you said, they flood the zone. And by the time you're discussing one piece of filth, they've moved on to another piece of filth. So while, we're still trying to, deal with the fact that, I don't know, Americans were shot and killed in the streets in Minneapolis. They're throwing out pictures of a former president and getting you upset about that because they portrayed him as a monkey. And then, by the way, that was 15 minutes ago. What's what fresh deviltry do we have today? And I mean, on a daily basis, I can usually come up with 3 to a dozen different things that would be worthy of investigation. But to staff to do it and the wherewithal to do it and the money to do it is just beyond most people. So I wish you all the luck with it. Anything I can do to help you, just let me know. I'm in.
Definitely. Well, just having me part of
here.
Having me part of these conversations is exactly the kind of help that I need, of just getting in other people's ecosystems and like-minded people, just supporting it and amplifying it. So I appreciate that, man.
Cool. All right. So last thing before we go, look, man, we almost took a half hour. It was great. So I could do this for an hour. But the Watchdog Report, once again, give me a plug and where can they do it and what can they do? One more time, folks, because we want you involved. I definitely want to see. I mean, you could write volumes of books on the corruption of this particular administration. But go ahead.
Encyclopedia is worth. Yeah, come check out the Watchdog Reports at thewatchdogreport.substack.com. That's really the central hub of it all. And hopefully we'll get some more subscribers. We're already up to almost 10,000 and we've only been up and running for like 2 weeks. So, we're getting a good reception so far.
Far out. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Kurt. This is Just Ask the Question. I am your host, Brian Karem. I think I am. And so I'll check and see. Anyway, thanks for joining us.
Better have your ID.
Yeah, you better have a real ID too if you want to get on a plane. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.